Hey everybody, before we get started with this video, just know that this is a quick conversation that I had with our head of product innovation, Nadine, a few weeks ago, where we're going to talk all about AI. And we also go over the results of a industry survey that we put out recently that's kind of gauging the just overall sentiment around AI in the industry right now. So without further ado, I hope you enjoy the interview. Able to give kind of like a brief, maybe like a 10 or 15-second rundown of who you are and what you do here?
Yes, I am. So Nadine, I'm head of product innovation here at Lighthouse. So I am very fortunate to sit at the forefront of a lot of AI developments that we see unfolding here at Lighthouse at the moment.
Perfect. So I'm going to jump into this first question and I'll give a little bit of background first. We recently put out an industry survey, and that was really to kind of gauge, how much people were using AI in the hospitality industry. And it was actually pretty surprising. So what we found was 63% of respondents are using AI in some form. But what I thought was most interesting was there's 37% of people out there in the hotel industry that aren't using AI in any capacity. What are some ways that this 37% of people who aren't adopting AI at all, what's the way that they can kind of like dip their toes in the water a little bit, test out AI, and utilize AI for the first time in a way that's maybe not too intimidating?
It's a very good question because I think we have all been taken a bit by surprise by the AI wave as of last year. All of a sudden, it was in everybody's living room, and it was really happening, I would say, for the first time since we've talked about it, I would say for the last decade or so. And I would say for those people who claim they have never ever used it and they might have been a bit intimidated by it, I think there are a couple of ways to get started. And I would really say we owe it to ourselves to get started. It will come. We're at the very beginning, but we should not miss the train while it's departing from the station. So I would say get going in a way that is maybe personal convenient for you. I think there is no need to go all in and try to automate all your business processes on the first day, but you might want to just do something as simple as open ChatGPT in your browser and you ask it a question a day. And why I'm saying this is because it will train this muscle of understanding what these systems can even do. What are they capable of? What are the boundaries? What could it help you with in your day-to-day job? And one by one, you'll unlock these use cases where you will feel like, oh, this is actually very, very beneficial for me. I will keep on doing this. And I think that is just about really dipping your toes, like you said. Next step for me, I would very much recommend, especially if you're in a business setting, so you work in a hotel, there must be tools that you are using today. They might not be AI powered, but I'm sure you will have some sort of conversation with these companies where you will have a quarterly assessment of what's ahead, what's on the roadmap, how are you using it? Ask them. So what do you have on the roadmap for AI? Is this something you think your tool would be leveraging? Are there already betas I can get myself onto? Is this something that could help me in my day-to-day? So don't be afraid to just bring it up as a question, because these providers should be at the forefront of what is happening and should be able to really help you along. I think that is probably the core, because when I look at the survey, the +% have said that they are using AI. What this really means, I believe, in most cases, is that they are using systems that have inbuilt AI today. And they are using that through these tools and through these products. And that is ideally what you want to get to as well as a hotelier for the problems that need solving in your day-to-day.
Excellent. So here's the second question, Nadine. What we found with the survey was really, it was more larger chains. So larger portfolios, larger companies, larger management companies, and big global chains tend to be the biggest adopters of AI right now. That was actually, in a lot of cases, a little bit different than what I was expecting to see out of the survey. But the more that I think about it, I think it does make quite a bit of sense, right? I think it's very like top-down initiatives, because I think these large global chains see the potential there with time savings and, reduced labor costs and all that stuff. Why is it that independent hoteliers so far seem a little less apt to adopt some of these AI solutions, especially knowing that presumably they may save them some time and some effort? Could you speak to that a little bit?
100%. I find it very interesting as well. And I think for all the reasons that you have mentioned, this is true. So the chains have specialists that are sitting in the headquarter who observe these trends, who are very close to technology companies, who make sure their chains are early adopters when it comes to technologies. Often this is also why an owner, for instance, decides to go with a chain because they have all this technology in house, or they use all these good systems to make them more money over time. So this is what they need to showcase. This is what they need to roll out in their individual properties. As an independent hotel, your day to day is very different. Often you have fewer staff, you wear many hats, you have a lot less time to stay on top of all of these trends. You're very much busy running your operation, putting the right breakfast on the table. So it's a very different world. And you do not have these specialists that are paid just to look out for these trends and to then implement them in the property. Whereas, just like you said, they can probably benefit from this technology the most. And personally, I have to say, I wonder if it is also a reflection of the state of AI and how in the industry we talk about what it is. Because from my point of view, AI is a technology. It is not a product. You know, I cannot go to Amazon and buy AI and I put it in my hotel and then it is there and it's solving all these problems for me. This is not how it works. It's a bit like electricity, right? I get it into my building and it's great. I have it connected, but really I need the vacuum cleaner to help me solve my problem, or my mixer or my lamp. So I have light. And these are the products that help me. But electricity is what runs all of this. And I think that's very much true for AI. For these independent hotels, they do not see how can they alone implement AI. They need to see the product. They need to see how it is helping them. And there, I think, especially as a technology company, we are really at the forefront of driving this messaging, driving why we are helping with what and what is it giving you. Because I think that is more important for independent hotels. If they invest time in researching a product that should help them in their day to day, it's very important for them to make sure this time and also the money is well invested. It's often their own money and they have to be sure it is paying off in the end. So that is really, I think, where we can all do a much better job to make this a lot more tangible for independent hotels and also show them what the exact return can be of this investment, that it is more approachable and it can really help them in their day to day.
Like, it's probably easier to track the effectiveness of an AI solution if you're a big global chain with 2,500 hotels, right? Whereas if you just have one hotel with 50 rooms, it's going to be a lot more kind of subjective.
Exactly. How do I track the ROI? And also, often in a chain hotel, you have indeed several revenue managers that operate across different hotels. There are crazy efficiencies to be gained by having AI in place. But for an individual hotel, sometimes this job of a revenue manager, it doesn't even exist and nobody is doing this today. So you're almost trying to solve a problem that hasn't really been experienced to that extent because not so much attention has been paid on that front. So it's a very different conversation, but still the potential is there. And I find it very exciting to see in the next couple of years how we can unlock that in the industry together.
So that brings me to my third question. Another thing that's really interesting is pretty much across the board, all of the respondents of our survey definitely feel that AI is going to be impactful in the future. So more than 40% of respondents rated this a 5 out of 5. So the scale was 1 to 5, 1 being, no, I don't think that AI is going to be impactful at all. 5 is, I think it's going to be very impactful. And 40% alone said that it was going to be a 5 out of 5 impact, but this was overwhelming that people definitely realize and kind of see that writing on the wall that AI is going to be really, really big for the next 5 years. So what can we say to those revenue managers who are maybe kind of concerned about even like job security?
It is a very, very interesting perspective. And to be honest with you, when I was first thinking about this, you know, there were always articles out there that were saying AI will replace the revenue manager. And I thought, well, nobody surely completely believes that. But actually, we have had conversations with clients throughout some research cycles that confirmed exactly that. People who are really worried that maybe tomorrow they're not as important anymore because AI will be running the show. And how I would like to see this actually is, it reminds me a little bit of myself many, many years ago when I was in my first ever managerial position. I was just transforming from a revenue executive, so somebody who does really the analysis, I would say, of a hotel, so a lot of Excel work, pulling reports, preparing numbers, and I was being promoted to a revenue manager. That first week after this promotion, I think I didn't work. I was just sitting there because I actually did not know what to do, because now I had my own executives who were crunching the numbers, who were doing the analysis, who were pulling the reports together, all the things I knew how to do very well, the reason why I got promoted in the first place. And I wasn't doing all of these things anymore. And I actually didn't know what to do with my time. But over time, I redefined my own role, and I understood that I have a very big impact by, first of all, looking after more hotels at the same time, if not more hotels, almost overseeing more departments, because there's also opportunity in F&B outlets throughout the whole organization to drive more revenue. I have more time to sit with my colleagues and really be creative about strategy. So all these things that I thought define me in my role, I could let go of and take on a much more creative strategic role as a revenue manager. I believe this is a bit what we'll see with AI as well. A lot of the day-to-day that is very tedious. It's actually not very value add. It takes a lot of time, but it is kind of the basis for being a revenue manager. Ideally, hopefully for everybody, we can outsource this to AI. We can outsource this to tools to do this for us. So we are just stuck with the solutions, the decisions. We're more of an editor. We see what the system is doing. We oversee it. We have time with our other commercial colleagues to really form the strategy, to think ahead about the next season, about the next year, and do that instead of being heads down in the Excel. I think it's a great opportunity. But what I would suggest for everybody to think about their own responsibilities and make sure you invest in yourself in a way that you're ready for this reality, because you do not want to be like me, being promoted to a manager, not working for a week. You want to be ready. You want to have formed the strategic side of yourself. So once you can automate the day-to-day, you're basically ready to step up and be that very valuable individual that you probably are to the hotel. So I would say we don't have to be afraid, but we have to be ready. And that's where the future of revenue management will probably lie. It will be a lot less tactical, but much more strategic.
Yeah, my kind of takeaway as you were saying that was, like, let's say I'm a revenue manager. I'm somebody who's responded 5 out of 5 on here. Like, I know AI is going to be huge. Maybe the takeaway is kind of more so like, make sure that your fundamentals are really, really good. So make sure that you conceptually understand revenue management well, but also like get ready for a lot of that like tedious, quote unquote, job security aspect of revenue management to go away. So now the pressure is going to be more so like, okay, can I be strategic? Can I come up with creative yielding strategies and pricing strategies? Because now I'm going to have more time to analyze this data. I mean, that was my takeaway from it. Cool. Okay. So the final question, and this one is a little bit more, I guess the setup's going to be a little bit more complicated, but this is all I'll show this slide too in the actual short, but it's that misalignment between tech investments and RM needs. So we asked a couple of different questions that were basically asking, like, do you feel that there's any deficits for you in the revenue management department? So what we found was revenue management as a discipline pretty consistently across the board said that they did not feel like they had all of the tools that they need to effectively do their job. So fewer than half of revenue managers said that they had all the tools that they needed. The prompt was, the technology investments my company is making with regard to revenue management align with my needs. Revenue managers were actually the lowest there. So in a lot of ways, they feel like the tech investments are not keeping up with their needs. And then revenue managers were also, next to marketing, they were the top discipline that said that their company needs to invest more in data analysis tools. So to me, there's a little bit of kind of like a disconnect, right? Because everybody knows AI is coming. Everybody knows AI is really important. But at the same time, revenue managers have some fears around AI. But then again, they also want kind of like the latest and greatest technology. So it kind of seems almost like an oxymoron.
It does, doesn't it? I think on the bright side, right, there seems to be great interest in technology, and they do see that AI will play a big role. So I see overall, let's say we can conclude we're open to this. That is great. Now, how do I get my hotel to invest in this technology? And that's trickier, right? So usually hotels have an overall budget that will go into something like technology to enable them on different fronts. Unfortunately, I know we at Lighthouse don't want to believe that, but there are probably more people than the revenue manager who has a need for it. And what I've observed in the last 2 years, especially coming out of the pandemic, is that a lot of investment is going into guest-facing technology. Also heavily driven by AI these days. So recommendations to guests of what to do during their stay, keeping in touch with them while they're on property. So there's a lot that's happening around that, a lot of investment going into automated check-ins, door locks, you name it. So very much the customer journey on property. I'm not saying that is wrong, but it has a very obvious impact. So if you do this in terms of guest reviews, shorten time at check-in, fewer front office staff you need, often it's very, very clear what the impact is because you can see it in your hotel. You can see the front office queue going away and people directly go to their room smiling. I guess that's how it works these days. So for the GM, it's almost a no-brainer investment. We want to do this. I can see why. The revenue manager traditionally sits very much alone in an office, or these days maybe even at home. And they have this need for this tool. They're often the only ones crunching data, and nobody really understands how much time this takes. Yeah, they come to these meetings with the shiny slides, but it took probably hours to compile this. And the fact that there is a tool that should help them do this, that's often not very much understood because it's the pain point of really one person that is not very, very visible on property. And that's again where I would say clear ROI calculation comes in from sides of the provider. So what does this tool do for hotels to help these revenue managers have the conversation? But also for the revenue manager to be very transparent as in, look, these are the number of hours I'm spending doing a specific task every single day, every week, every month. To give you one example, when I was still a revenue manager on property, we once did a time tracking. 70% of my time I spent on manual reporting as a manager. That is mind-blowing if you think about it. Those type of figures, they often open up conversations as to how can we make these people more impactful? Because usually they sit at the heart of what drives revenue in the business. We need to enable them to do that more effectively. But that means the revenue manager has to make him or herself more heard in order to compete with these overall investments. But usually also the technology companies should be helpful in order to drive the conversation forward with the general managers.
Nice. Okay. So kind of elevating that voice of the revenue manager so they, so not all the tech investment is spent solely on like guest facing stuff, right? Like,
100%. Maybe something I would like to add to that, something else that can really help out of my own experience is if you as a revenue manager are not the sole user of that tool, it's usually an easier pitch saying that it's always great to find something that helps you do your job better. But if you can find an angle that will also enable other stakeholders to potentially see the data, to access it, so it can really be a value proposition for the wider company, that's always the easier pitch than just solving your proprietary problem.
Yeah, that's a good point too, because I noticed that it seemed to be revenue management and marketing that were both kind of answering that question in the same way. I think it's beneficial, or it could be beneficial for revenue managers and marketing managers to kind of get together and say like, hey, we are the commercial team if they're not already doing that. And I don't know, that's just something that kind of comes to mind.
100%. I think the more people can combine forces, especially around data tools, the necessity of it, how it can inform decision-making across the board, the more powerful the message. If you can give it a twist as in, hey, and by the way, this is what the general manager could maybe use, even more powerful because they will see how that also has an upside for them, for the larger operation, and how everybody can be more informed.
So those were the four main questions I put together, but now I'll kind of turn it over to you. Like, is there anything that you felt like we missed? And sorry, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but just in case there's anything we missed, like AI related, or especially like, if anybody's kind of like afraid of AI. I don't know if you've even like had some of those conversations with any clients or anything. I don't know. I would say it seems to be like 50-50. I would say like it seems like 50% of people are just straight up not afraid, and they're like, oh, there's no way it's going to replace revenue managers. And then the other half really seem to be like, my gosh, I don't know if I'm going to have my job in 5 years. So it just seems weird. Like the people that I talk to, it's very polarized. There's nobody that's like, yeah, it'll be, somewhere in the middle.
I think you pick your camp when it comes to AI. I think either you believe that this will disrupt everything, or you believe that this will go away, just as you believe that it might take your job or it might not. I believe that if it ever were to take any jobs, I think we're still very, very far away from this. I think in the short and midterm, all this will do is help you to be more effective at what you are doing. And for that to even happen, again, let's be clear, AI today, it's still a very raw technology that still needs to be packaged up in products that will help you unlock all of this. And we are at the beginning of this. Surely at Lighthouse, we're investing in this. A lot of other technology companies are. And we will see, I would say, a lot more products coming to the market this year, next year, that will help these hoteliers really make use of AI to the full potential. And I would even claim, while they're still bracing themselves, waiting for AI to invade their hotels, it will probably happen. They might not ever notice. It might happen under the hood. They will just purchase a tool that seems like magic, that's helping them a great deal, summarizing reports, sharing them across the board. And they might not even know it as AI, but it is already there. And I hope that's a bit the future we're heading into, where it will become such a standard in the technology we use that we don't even have to be talking about it. We don't have to be afraid of it, because it has just moved in and it is just one of our colleagues without us ever knowing. That's what I would like to see.
Nice. Yeah, I like that. That's a nice optimistic ending for it.